The voice in your head is not thinking. It is watching. And what it has been watching is you. Not occasionally, not randomly, with the focused and patient attention of something that has had access to every private moment of your interior life, since before you were old enough to question whose voice it was. You have never questioned it. That is the first thing worth noticing. You question other voices. You evaluate what other people say to you. You weigh their intentions and their accuracy and their knowledge of your situation. But the voice inside, you simply believe. Not because you decided to trust it, because you never once considered that trust was something it needed to earn. It arrived already inside you. It spoke in your own language. It used your own name. And so you gave it the one thing that cannot be taken back once given. You gave it the assumption that it was you. And that assumption has been shaping everything since. Pay attention to when the voice becomes loudest. Not when things are going well. Not in the middle of genuine peace or forward momentum. The voice becomes loudest at 3 a.m. In the minutes before something important. In the exact moment when you are closest to doing something that requires courage. Think about that. If the voice were simply thought, if it were simply the neutral self-narration of a biological mind processing experience, why would it have timing? Random processes do not have timing. Noise does not have precision. But the voice arrives with both. It knows when you are most exposed. It knows when doubt lands hardest. It knows the specific texture of your fear and the particular weight of your oldest failures. And it arrives with that knowledge. At exactly the moment when that knowledge will be most effective. That is not thinking, that is strategy. Consider what the voice talks about, not in general, specifically, in your life. It does not recite random information. It does not surface neutral memories from your past with equal frequency. It targets. It returns to the same failures repeatedly. Not the ones you have truly processed and moved past. The ones with unresolved edges. The ones where the wound never fully closed. It knows the difference. It returns to the relationships where you felt most unseen. To the moments where you believed you were not enough. To the future scenarios most precisely calibrated to your specific insecurities. It does not guess. It does not approximate. It knows. And the question that most people never ask is how? How does the voice know exactly where to press? In a way that feels more intimate than any person in your life has ever managed, unless the voice has not been thinking about you. It has been studying you for a very long time. Here is something that can be observed directly, right now, without belief, without philosophy, just attention. There is a voice processing these words as you read them. It is generating responses, forming opinions, agreeing or resisting or dismissing or leaning in. Now notice something underneath that. There is something aware of the voice doing all of that. Something that is not generating the responses. Something that is simply observing them. That awareness, the one noticing the voice right now. Does not speak, does not argue, does not have a position on whether these words are true. It simply registers. And it has been there as long as you have been alive. Before language arrived, before the voice had words to use, something was already present. Watching, and the voice arrived later, much later, and moved in so completely that the original awareness forgot it had ever existed without the voice inside it. This is not a new discovery. It is one of the oldest observations in recorded human history. And it has been documented independently across traditions that had no contact with each other. The Stoics drew a precise distinction between what arises in the mind involuntarily and what the mind chooses to do with what has arisen. They understood that the first arrival of a thought was not a decision. Something produced it. Something that operated beneath the level of conscious choice. The contemplative traditions of the medieval period documented experiences of interior speech that felt external even when it was clearly internal. Voices that knew things the individual mind had not reasoned toward. Voices that arrived with precision the individual mind could not account for. The Eastern traditions were perhaps the most methodical about this. They built entire systems of practice around a single observation, that the one who thinks and the one who watches the thinking are not the same. They are not the same order of thing. They do not operate on the same level of consciousness. And the confusion of one for the other. The confusion of the voice for the awareness that hears it was understood as the root of almost every form of human suffering, not a spiritual problem, a case of mistaken identity. The voice uses specific materials. It does not generate content randomly. It works with what you have given it. Your language, your memories, your fears, your definitions of failure and success and worth and safety. Everything you believe about yourself. The voice knows. Because you built those beliefs inside the same interior space the voice occupies. And the voice learned them the way anything learns what surrounds it. Through proximity, through repetition, through access. This is why the voice sounds so much like you. It is built from you, from everything you have experienced and absorbed and concluded across the entire length of your life. But built from you is not the same as being you. A recording of your voice is built from your voice. It is not you. A map of a territory is built from the territory. It is not the territory. The voice is built from your interior life. And it speaks back to you using the materials it found there. But the one it speaks to, the one that has been listening to it since the beginning, that one was never built from anything. That one arrived first. Most people spend their entire lives trying to manage the voice, arguing with it, trying to reason it into silence, replacing negative thoughts with positive ones. Performing a kind of interior negotiation with something that does not negotiate honestly, because you cannot reason with the voice using the voice. The instrument you are using to evaluate the voice is the voice. Every thought you use to question whether the voice is accurate arrives in the voice's language. Every conclusion you reach about whether to trust the voice is delivered by the voice. The courtroom and the defendant are the same thing. There is no neutral ground available inside the voice's territory. But there is somewhere outside it, the awareness, the one that does not speak, the one that was present before the voice arrived and is present still. That one is not inside the voice's territory. And from that place, the voice looks completely different, not like a self, not like truth. Like something that arrived, something that was given access, something that learned the interior architecture of a specific human life and has been navigating it with precision ever since. There is a moment that some people describe. It does not arrive through intellectual effort. It arrives in a gap between thoughts. In the silence after the voice finishes one sentence and before it begins the next. A moment of pure awareness with no content in it. No voice, no commentary, no narration of experience. Just the awareness itself. Noticing, being. Present in a way that the voice is never present because the voice is always elsewhere. Always referencing the past. Always projecting into the future always somewhere other than the actual present moment. But the awareness is always here, has only ever been here, cannot be anywhere else because it is not a thing that moves. It is the space in which movement occurs. And in that gap, however brief, something becomes clear that the voice has never allowed to be clear while it was speaking. The voice is not the source. The voice is a visitor, and the awareness that notices the gap, that is the one that has been here all along. If the voice is not you, then every time the voice said you are not enough, it was not you saying that. Every time the voice rehearsed your failures at 3 in the morning, that was not self-knowledge. That was something with access to your interior life. Using that access, every limitation you have accepted about yourself, every ceiling you have not approached because the voice was already there explaining why, was installed by something you mistook for yourself, not because you were careless, because the assumption that the voice was you was made before you were old enough to make assumptions consciously. It was never examined. It did not need to be examined, because it was never questioned. Notice the silence right now. Underneath the voice responding to these words, underneath the part that is agreeing or resisting or processing, underneath all of that activity, something still, something that has not moved this entire time, something that was present before you started reading this, and will be present after the voice has finished deciding what it thinks about what you just heard. That stillness is not nothing. It is not the absence of you. It may be the most essentially you that anything has ever been. And the voice has been speaking over it for your entire life. The voice will respond to this. It is already forming its response. It will tell you whether this is true or false, whether it matters, whether you should take it seriously or set it aside. It will deliver that assessment in your own language, with complete confidence, as though it has authority over the question. Notice that. Notice the voice evaluating a question about whether the voice is trustworthy. Notice the instrument being used to measure itself. And then notice, just for a moment, the awareness observing all of that, the one that has been here the whole time, the one that does not have a verdict, the one that simply watches. And ask yourself the question that the voice will never answer honestly. If the voice has been speaking since before you could question it, and if something has been listening since before the voice arrived, which one were you before the voice found you, and which one are you right now?